The Pellerin scanning vessel Eternal Dawn drifted through the void between stars, its crystalline sensors probing the darkness with methodical precision. Captain Zixtal stood at the command center, his bioluminescent tendrils pulsing with a steady blue rhythm that reflected centuries of practiced routine. For 3,000 years, the Pellerin Confederation had mapped this sector of space, cataloging every anomaly, every gravitational wave, every quantum fluctuation with unwavering dedication to order. That order shattered in an instant. Captain. First observer Renlath's voice crackled across the neural network, her usual steady frequencies disrupted by alarm. Unknown energy signature detected at bearing 73 Mark IV. Zixtal's tendrils flared purple with concern. Classification. None, sir. It defies our categorization protocols. Before Zixtal could respond, space itself seemed to hiccup. A massive vessel tore through the fabric of reality, trailing what appeared to be streams of raw probability in its wake. The ship was unlike anything in the Confederation's vast database, a brutal combination of angular armor plates and exposed energy conduits that pulsed with power that shouldn't exist. By the first light, Renlath whispered, her crystalline form vibrating with disbelief. Their hull, it's absorbing quantum fluctuations. That's theoretically impossible. The vessel was massive, easily dwarfing the Eternal Dawn. Its surface bore marks of recent combat, scarred armor plates, and hastily repaired sections that somehow made it look more formidable rather than damaged. Glowing script along its hull identified it as the TNS Prometheus. Incoming transmission, announced the communications array. It's using 17 different protocols simultaneously. Put it through, Zixtal ordered, his tendrils now a riot of confused colors. A holographic image materialized on the bridge. A human female wearing what appeared to be a uniform adorned with inexplicable patches and modifications. Her expression was serious, but carried a hint of amusement that Zixtal found unsettling. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran naval ship Prometheus, she announced without preamble. Sorry about the dramatic entrance. Still working out the kinks in our probability drive. Probability drive. Zixtal's translator struggled with the concept. Yeah, turns out if you convince quantum mechanics it's having an existential crisis, you can make it do some pretty interesting things. Chen's casual tone belied the impossibility of what she was suggesting. But that's not why we're here. We've been tracking something nasty through this sector. Something old. Something that your sensors probably can't even see. Renlath's analysis crystals pulsed rapidly. Our sensors are the most advanced in known space. We can detect only what you expect to detect, Chen interrupted. That's the problem. You've spent so long perfecting your technology that you've engineered out the ability to see the impossible. And trust me, what's coming is very, very impossible. As if summoned by her words, the Eternal Dawn sensors began registering cascading anomalies. Space itself seemed to shiver. And for a moment, Zixtal's native ability to perceive quantum states showed him something that his rational mind refused to process. What, he began, but Chen was already moving. And there it is, she muttered. Look, we don't have much time for the full explanation, but here's the short version. There are things living in the gaps between probability. Ancient things. They'd been sleeping for millions of years, and now they're waking up. Your civilization's obsession with perfect order. It's like a dinner bell to them. The Prometheus's engines flared with impossible energy as it moved to position itself between the Eternal Dawn and the growing anomaly. Zixtal watched in fascination as sections of the human vessel shifted and transformed, weapons systems emerging from spaces that couldn't possibly exist within the ship's dimensions. Captain Chen, Zixtal managed, his tendrils now pulsing with a mixture of fear and fascination. Your species. How did you discover all this? Chen's laugh was sharp and genuine. Discover it? Hell, we stumbled into it backwards while trying to prove why our physics professors were wrong about faster-than-light travel. Turns out the universe has a sense of humor, and humans, We're really good at appreciating a good joke, even when it's trying to eat us. The anomaly was growing now, taking on a form that made Zixtal's sensory organs ache. The Prometheus's weapons tracked it with casual precision, energy readings suggesting power levels that should have torn the ship apart. "So what do you say?" Chen asked, her smile now bearing an edge of predatory anticipation. "Want to help us kill a cosmic horror? I promise it'll completely revolutionize your understanding of reality. Might even be fun." As Zixtal stared at the human captain, he realized that his civilization's 3,000 years of careful observation and categorization had never prepared him for this moment. Humanity hadn't just challenged the impossible, they'd made it blink first. The hunt was about to begin. The Eternal Dawn's observation chamber had never felt so crowded. Dozens of Pellerin scientists huddled around displays showing readings that defied their understanding, while Captain Chen's hologram stood at the center, manipulating a three-dimensional map of space that somehow included dimensions that shouldn't exist. "We call them void echoes," Chen explained, her hands dancing through the holographic display. "They exist in the spaces between conventional reality. Think of them like predators that evolved to hunt in the gaps of perception." Zixtal watched as the map revealed patterns he'd never noticed before, ripples in spacetime that his sensors had automatically filtered out as background noise. But how did humans discover them when our technology failed to detect their existence? Chen's smile held a hint of irony. "Because our technology isn't as good as yours. Our sensors are full of glitches and imperfections. Turns out, sometimes you need dirty lenses to see the dirt." She gestured, and the hologram zoomed in on what appeared to be a tear in reality itself. 3 months ago, we lost contact with one of our deep space research stations. When we arrived, we found this. The image shifted to show what remained of the station. It hadn't been destroyed. It had been unraveled, its very atoms pulled apart and restructured in ways that violated fundamental laws of physics. The station's AI managed to send one last transmission. Chen continued. "It was just random noise at first, until one of our engineers decided to play it backwards through a broken speaker while drunk on caffeinated beverages. That's when we heard them singing." Singing. Renlath's crystalline form vibrated with disbelief. "That's the closest word we have for it. They communicate through probability distortions. Each song reshapes reality around them." Chen's expression hardened. "They're spreading, consuming everything in their path. Your civilization's perfect order, your carefully calibrated sensors, they might as well be runway lights guiding them to their next meal." The Prometheus's AI, which had introduced itself as Aria, manifested a new set of projections. "We've tracked their movement patterns across 17 probability layers. They're following the mathematical equivalent of scent trails, drawn to areas of extreme order and predictability." Zixtal's tendrils twisted in horror as he realized the implications. "The Pellerin core worlds are like an all-you-can-eat buffet," Chen finished grimly. "Your society has spent millennia perfecting order and predictability. To them, you're practically gift-wrapped." The chamber fell silent as the Pellerins processed this information. Generations of scientific advancement, their pride in achieving perfect technological harmony, all of it had made them more vulnerable, not less. "But how do you fight something like this?" Renlath asked, her usual scientific confidence shaken. "If they exist between conventional reality, how can we even affect them?" Chen's grin returned, bearing an edge of fierce anticipation. "That's where human ingenuity comes in. See, we figured out that while they feed on order, they have a hard time digesting chaos. And if there's one thing humans excel at, it's creating controlled chaos." The hologram shifted to show the Prometheus's weapon systems, an impossible collection of jury-rigged technology that seemed to operate on principles that violated basic physics. Quantum uncertainty generators powered by modified coffee machines, probability torpedoes guided by algorithms based on cat videos, temporal disruptors that technically didn't exist yet. Most of this stuff, Chen admitted, started as accidents or mistakes. But that's humanity's secret weapon. We don't just accept our mistakes, we weaponize them. When something goes wrong, we don't just fix it, we figure out how to make it go wrong in exactly the right way. As if to demonstrate, a small explosion echoed from the Prometheus's engineering section. Chen glanced at a readout and nodded approvingly. See, that wasn't supposed to happen, but now we can channel probability fluctuations 3% more efficiently. Zixtel stared at the human captain, his centuries of experience struggling to process her casual approach to impossibility. Your species, you deliberately court chaos. Court it. Hell, we took chaos out for dinner, showed it a good time, and convinced it to help us save the galaxy. Chen's expression softened slightly. Look, I know this goes against everything your civilization believes in. But right now, we need your help. You understand order better than anyone in the galaxy. We need that knowledge, not to perfect it, but to figure out exactly how to break it in just the right way. The chamber's displays suddenly flared with new warnings. The void echo they'd been tracking was moving, its non-existence rippling through layers of reality like a shark through dark water. Time's up, Chen announced, her hologram already beginning to fade. That thing's heading toward your closest colony world. You have a choice to make, Captain Zixtel. Stay with your perfect order and watch it be consumed, or embrace a little chaos and help us fight back. As the human captain's image disappeared, Zixtel realized that his civilization stood at a crossroads. For 3,000 years, they had sought to eliminate uncertainty from the universe. Now, their survival might depend on learning to embrace it. The hunt was no longer just beginning. It was evolving into something unprecedented, a partnership between the most ordered civilization in known space and a species that had turned chaos itself into an art form. In the distance, reality screamed as ancient horrors moved through its cracks, unaware that their perfect hunting grounds were about to become considerably more complicated. Would you like me to continue with Part 3? I'll further develop the collaboration between humans and Pelorans as they work to combat the void echoes. The Prometheus's engineering bay resembled something between a laboratory and a controlled disaster zone. Holographic displays flickered with equations that hurt to look at, while jury-rigged devices hummed with energies that shouldn't exist. At the center of this organized chaos stood Chief Engineer Maya Rodriguez, currently explaining quantum mechanics to a group of bewildered Peloran scientists while balancing a cup of coffee that occasionally phased through its own mug. The problem with your approach, Maya explained, gesturing with her semi-corporeal coffee, is that you're trying to solve quantum uncertainty. We found it works better if you just convince it to be uncertain in your favor. First observer Renlath's crystalline form vibrated with confusion. But that violates fundamental principles off. Exactly. Maya beamed. That's the point. The void echoes exist in the gaps between what's possible and what isn't, so we built weapons that do the same thing. She led the group to what appeared to be a standard torpedo casing, except it was simultaneously there and not there, existing in a state that made the Pelorans' highly tuned senses ache. This is our latest prototype. We call it the Schrodinger's Revenge. Maya patted the weapon affectionately, her hand passing partially through its surface. It exists in a quantum superposition of 37 different states, none of which are technically possible. When it hits a void echo, it forces them to try to process all 37 impossibilities at once. And what happens then? Zixtal asked, his tendrils swirling with a mixture of horror and fascination. Well, in testing, one of them had what we think was the equivalent of an existential crisis. Turned itself inside out through 11 dimensions we didn't even know existed. Maya grinned, wrote a really interesting paper about it. Peer review was a nightmare though, kept having to convince the reviewers that the laws of physics we were breaking were really more like strong suggestions. Araya's holographic form materialized nearby, displaying complex simulations of reality-bending combat. We've also been analyzing the Peloran sensor data. Your civilization's understanding of order gives us new insights into exactly how to disrupt it. The AI projected a new series of equations that made several Pellerin scientists emit distress frequencies. By combining your precise measurements of normal spacetime with our methods of creative destruction, we can target the void echoes, hunting patterns directly. Maya nodded enthusiastically, causing her coffee to briefly exist in several places at once. It's like learning the rules really well so you know exactly which ones to break for maximum effect. A sudden alarm cut through the discussion. Captain Chen's voice echoed through the ship. They're moving. 3 void echoes, heading straight for the Pellerin colony. All hands to battle stations. The engineering bay erupted into controlled frenzy. Maya downed her quantum-uncertain coffee and began activating systems that probably violated several laws of reality. Time to test our theories. Renlath, your people's sensor data. Can you feed it directly into our targeting systems? The Pellerin scientist hesitated only briefly before extending a crystalline appendage toward the nearest console. Information flowed. Perfect order meeting deliberate chaos in a synthesis that had never before existed in the galaxy. Quantum harmonics stabilizing, Araya announced. Probability matrices aligning. Reality disruption at optimal levels. Through the Prometheus's viewports, space itself seemed to shiver. The void echoes were visible now, their non-existence leaving tears in the fabric of conventional physics. They moved with predatory grace, drawn by the beacon of Pellerin order. You know, Maya mused as she made final adjustments to weapons that shouldn't work. There's something poetic about this. Your people spent thousands of years trying to perfect the universe, while we humans spent most of our history asking, what if we tried hitting it with a stick? Turns out both approaches had merit. Zixtal watched as human ingenuity merged with Pellerin precision. Weapons powered by controlled accidents were being guided by the most accurate sensors ever created. Probability torpedoes were being loaded with warheads that contained carefully measured amounts of pure chaos. Engineering to bridge, Maya called out, her voice steady despite the impossible energies surging through her domain. Weapons hot. Reality is about as unstable as we can make it without accidentally creating a new universe. Again. Again? Renlath inquired. Long story. Let's just say we now have very strict rules about not letting interns mess with the coffee machine's quantum settings. Maya's expression turned serious, everyone ready to make the impossible possible. As the void echoes approached, Zixtal realized that he was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. His people's quest for perfect order had led them to the brink of extinction, only to be saved by a species that treated the fundamental laws of physics like a suggestion box. The battle was about to begin, and reality itself seemed to hold its breath, uncertain which impossibility would win. The ancient horrors that lived in its cracks, or the humans who had turned uncertainty into an art form. Through it all, Maya's coffee continued to exist in quantum superposition, simultaneously empty and full, hot and cold, possible and impossible, much like the alliance that now stood as the galaxy's last hope. Would you like me to continue with Part 4? We'll move into the climactic battle where this unique alliance faces off against the void echoes. The void between stars erupted with impossible light as the Prometheus engaged its first target. Reality buckled as human ingenuity collided with ancient horror, creating patterns that no sensor was meant to detect. Multiple quantum fractures detected. Araya's voice echoed through the command center. The void echoes are attempting to unravel local space-time. Captain Chen stood at the helm, her expression focused as she watched the battle unfold across multiple layers of reality. Maya, how are our new weapons holding up? The Schrodinger's revenge torpedoes are performing beautifully. Maya's voice crackled through the comm. Though performing might not be the right word since they technically don't exist until they hit something. The lead void echo, a writhing mass of anti-reality, twisted through dimensions as it advanced on the Pellerin colony. Its very presence caused nearby space to develop mathematical errors, gravity itself struggling to maintain consistency. Pellerin sensors detecting anomalous pattern shifts. Zixtal reported from his station, his tendrils flickering with controlled panic. They're trying to harmonize the chaos, turn it back into order they can consume. Oh, they want order. Chen's smile turned predatory. Maya, initiate Protocol Murphy. You can't be serious. Maya laughed through the comm. We haven't even tested that outside simulation. No time like the present. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? Well, technically, everything and nothing simultaneously, but point taken. Initiating Protocol Murphy. The Prometheus's engines suddenly began cycling through multiple states of existence. Power readings fluctuated wildly as Maya's engineering team deliberately induced every possible malfunction in carefully controlled sequence. The principle is simple. AI explained to the bewildered Pellerin observers. If everything that can go wrong does go wrong in exactly the right way. The ship's systems cascaded into calculated failure. Backup systems activated, failed, and activated again in patterns that defied probability. Each failure generated its own unique quantum signature, creating a symphony of chaos that the void echoes couldn't process. They're trying to adapt, Zixtal warned, watching through his species' quantum-sensitive perceptions, shifting their consumption patterns to await. What are you doing? Maya's voice was almost gleeful. Remember how your sensors are too perfect. We're using them to aim our imperfections. Araya. Full power to the uncertainty generators. The Prometheus's weapons unleashed a barrage that violated every known law of physics. Schrödinger's revenge torpedoes phased through multiple realities before impact. Probability beams struck with effects that were simultaneously devastating and impossible to observe. The lead void echo recoiled, its non-Euclidean form distorting as it encountered weapons that operated on principles even it couldn't comprehend. It tried to process the attacks through its usual methods of converting chaos to order, but each attempt only led to more impossible outcomes. Direct hit. Maya cheered. Though direct might not be the right word since we technically hit it in several parallel universes simultaneously. The creature's response was immediate and terrifying. It lashed out with tendrils of pure mathematical violation, attempting to unravel the Prometheus's structure at the quantum level. Hull breach in 3. No, 5. No, theoretically infinite dimensions, Araya reported calmly. Maya, I believe this qualifies as an appropriate moment for your contingency plan. You mean the one that everyone said was insane and would probably destroy the universe? Precisely. Captain. Maya's voice held a note of barely contained excitement. Chen watched as the other two void echoes moved to support their companion, reality cracking around them like glass. Do it. Maya's contingency plan involved deliberately overloading the Prometheus's reality distortion fields while using the Pellerin sensors to focus the resulting chaos with impossible precision. It was like trying to perform surgery with an explosion, using mathematics that would make most physicists cry. The effect was instantaneous and spectacular. Space itself seemed to hiccup as ordered chaos met chaotic order. The void echoes, caught in the reality warping convergence, found themselves trying to process paradoxes that even their ancient consciousness couldn't handle. They're attempting to retreat, Zixtal reported, his tendrils pulsing with disbelief. The quantum signatures are. I don't understand. They're afraid. Of course they're afraid, Chen grinned. They evolved to hunt order and consume predictability. We just showed them that chaos can bite back. The void echoes, for the first time in their ancient existence, faced something they couldn't categorize or consume. Their attempt to withdraw created new ripples in reality, but the Prometheus was ready. One last surprise, Maya announced, firing the uncertainty cascade. The final barrage was less a weapon and more a deliberate mathematical error propagated through spacetime. It caught the retreating entities in a web of quantum impossibilities, each attempting to resolve itself in ways that violated the others. When reality finally stabilized, or at least returned to its normal level of improbability, the void echoes were gone. Not destroyed, perhaps, but certainly convinced that this sector of space was no longer suitable hunting ground. "Status report," Chen called out, surveying her improbably intact ship. "The good news is we're alive, and we won," Maya responded. "The weird news is that I think we accidentally invented 3 new types of physics. Also, the coffee machine is now brewing drinks from possible futures, but honestly, that's probably an improvement. Would you like me to continue with the final part? We'll wrap up the story and explore the implications of this unprecedented alliance between order and chaos." The Pellerin High Council chamber had never witnessed anything quite like this. The ancient hall, designed for perfect acoustics and optimal sensory reception, was currently experiencing 7 different versions of reality simultaneously, all because of a human engineer's modified coffee machine. To summarize, Maya Rodriguez explained, her holographic form flickering between dimensions as she addressed the assembled council. The void echoes weren't just hunting us. They were hunting the very concept of order itself. The vast chamber, filled with representatives from across Pellerin space, hummed with uneasy frequencies. Billions of crystalline forms vibrated in harmony as they processed this revelation. Our civilization spent millennia perfecting our understanding of the universe. First speaker Vaxtil observed, their form shimmering with concerned harmonics. "Are you suggesting this was a mistake?" "Not a mistake," Captain Chen interjected, stepping forward. "An incomplete picture. You mastered order, but the universe isn't just about order. It's about balance." ARI's hologram expanded to fill the chamber's center, displaying complex mathematical models that made several council members emit distress frequencies. The void echoes evolved to hunt species that achieved perfect predictability. They're drawn to it like moths to a flame. But humanity? We're more like a flame that keeps changing colors and occasionally explodes, Maya finished with a grin. Not because we're trying to be unpredictable, but because we never quite got the hang of being anything else. The display shifted to show recordings from the battle. The Prometheus, a ship that defied conventional physics, working in perfect harmony, with Pellerin sensor arrays to create weapons that shouldn't exist. "Your people's precision gave our chaos direction," Chen explained. "Without your sensors, our weapons would have been just random shots in the dark. But together we achieved something unprecedented," Zixtal added, his tendrils pulsing with new understanding. "A synthesis of order and chaos." Maya nodded enthusiastically, causing her coffee to briefly exist in several temporal states. "Exactly. And that's just the beginning. We've already started adapting some of our accidents using your mathematical models. Want to see what happens when you apply perfect quantum calculations to intentionally imperfect reality manipulation?" Before anyone could object, she pressed a button on her modified coffee machine. The chamber's perfect acoustics suddenly began producing harmonies that shouldn't exist, yet somehow made more sense than normal sound. "That's beautiful," first speaker Vaxtil admitted, their crystalline form resonating with the impossible music. "It's what happens when you stop trying to eliminate uncertainty and start trying to understand it," Chen said softly. The void echoes weren't just a threat. They were a wake-up call. The universe isn't meant to be perfectly ordered or completely chaotic. It's meant to dance between the two. Araya projected new statistics, showing how the merger of human chaos and Pellerin precision had already begun producing technological advances that neither civilization could have achieved alone. Quantum computers that worked better when slightly broken. Sensors that could detect the impossible by deliberately implementing errors in their perfect systems. "We're not asking you to abandon order," Chen continued. "We're inviting you to expand your definition of it, to see the patterns in chaos, the stability in uncertainty." Maya held up her quantum uncertain coffee cup. "Besides, once you embrace a little chaos, you start finding out that the universe has a sense of humor. Did you know we accidentally created a temporal paradox last week that turned out to be a perfect solution to our power distribution problems?" The council chamber filled with harmonics as the Pellerins debated this new path. Centuries of tradition warred with the undeniable evidence before them. The void echoes had nearly destroyed them precisely because they were too perfect, too predictable. Perhaps, first speaker Vaxtill finally announced, their form glowing with decision. It is time for our people to learn a new kind of dance. The agreement that followed was unprecedented in galactic history. The Pellerin Confederation, masters of order and precision, formally allied with humanity, champions of controlled chaos and creative impossibility. Together, they would forge a new understanding of reality, one that embraced both the perfect and the imperfect. As the historic session concluded, Maya's coffee machine chose that moment to start brewing drinks from possible futures that hadn't happened yet. Surprisingly, not a single Pellerin objected when their perfectly calibrated sensors registered the impossible beverages. Instead, many found themselves curious to taste something that technically didn't exist. You know, Chen mused, watching as crystalline beings attempted to figure out how to drink quantum-uncertain coffee. I think this is the beginning of something beautiful. And impossible, Maya added with a grin. Precisely, Zixtal agreed, his tendrils swirling with newfound appreciation for paradox. In the vast dark between stars, reality itself seemed to hum with new possibilities. The void echoes had evolved to hunt perfect order, but they had never encountered anything like this, a civilization that had mastered chaos, allied with one that had mastered precision, together creating something greater than either could achieve alone. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all, and somewhere in the quantum foam of existence, ancient horrors learned a new emotion, uncertainty about their place in a reality that no longer played by their rules. The end was just another beginning, and this one promised to be gloriously, perfectly imperfect.